Hello coding aliens, welcome to my YouTube channel Code with a Key. How are you doing guys? So in this project series we have already covered the front end part of this e-commerce application that we are going to build using the headless CMS, which is a HyGraph or the Graph CMS that we will be integrated here. So the very first part, we have already created our React application and we have created the components. We have already created the setup of this graph CMS, how you can create your schema, your content, and then in this particular part we will learn how you can integrate your graph CMS directly in your application. So in this part it will be very important for you to integrate the content API. Using the content API we will integrate the products or the items from the directly from the CMS into our React application. I hope you guys definitely watch the part 1 of this video. If you have not watched this, I strongly recommend you to guys complete the part 1, then come to this part, because this part is in the continuation of the part 1 and we will move ahead directly from the part 1 to the part 2. So let's get started and just create the context for the cart that you can see here. We have already built a cart here and we just need to create a context API for the cart here. So for this you will just simply maintain the state of the products that we are putting these things inside of our cards. So for this we will simply create a product context or the basket context, or you can simply call a card context here, right? So we have already completed the components of like that. We have just created a home page, we have created the products details page, and we have created a card page. Now the next thing, we will move to create the card context, or you can simply call the basket context here. So let's get started. And if you have not subscribed this channel, don't forget to subscribe this channel and press the bell icon to never miss any updates. And till then, let's go and start build this context in this application. So let's get started. So to create a card context, so for this you just need to create a context or simply use the hook, which is a use context. So to create a basket context for this. So I will give you or just do a step-by-step process how you can create a context and use it anywhere in your components and just pass the values deep down to your hierarchy tree of your components. So for this you guys just need to simply create a folder. Let me just create a folder with the name of context, and here inside of this context we just create our cart context or simply call the basket context. So let's add the basket context.js. Here we have just created the basket context, or else we can simply rename it to make a product context, because inside of this we will simply add the context for the product also. So we can simply let me just rename it, just give it the name of product. Okay, product context.js, exactly like this. Okay, so here inside of this product context, what we will do, we will first of all let's import the bunch of things that is from the React. So let's import the things from React. Let's add this to our React. Here we will just import the create context. So let me copy the create context and the use state hook. We will create simply create our initial state for this using the use state hook. Next, the next step is to create a context. So we will simply wrap it inside of this constant here. So here we have just create a product context. Let me just give the name of this, and here we just use this function that is called a create context. So it will simply create a context with the name of product context, and here we can simply use this product context anywhere in our application to use the values that we will be passed in the providers, right? So here we will simply export our providers. So for this we will just simply create a product provider or the basket provider. So here we just simply give the product provider, and here we have a bunch of options. So here we have this, and here we have this product provider, and here it takes the children like the inside of this props, or it will be all the components that we are that it should pass the value to. So here we have this children, and here we will start our initial state. Like, so first one will be our product, so on which product we are currently selected. So here we will have added this product section here. Next, we can simply give the use state of empty array. Next, we can set the count of the basket count or the shopping cart count. So here we have this count state. So let's give the count state, and it would be initially 0. So let's add it a 0. Then we will have the basket. So how many items inside of our basket with the details, we can simply add the details inside of this basket. So let me add the set basket functionality. So here we have this set basket, and let me add the initial state of the basket is also empty array. Then we have the search term. So when we are searching anything here, so we can simply make a state for that particular search component here. So further we can simply add a filter or the search functionality on the products that we are using it here. So we can add a simple search term or the search or set search term here like this. So we have this thing, and initially it will be an empty string. So let me add the use state of this is empty string. Okay, now we can simply wrap everything inside of our values, or simply destructure it inside of this value. So you can simply create a values like this, or you can simply add everything like product, the set product, the count, the set count, the basket, okay, sorry, set count, the basket, set basket, each and everything. Set basket, okay, let me make it bigger. Set basket, similarly the search term and the set search term. So we have destructure or simply pass each and everything inside of this of our values that we have here, and we will simply pass this value inside of our provider. So this thing, and we are done with this thing, and then we will simply return this context. So simply add a return statement. So we will simply return this context. So how can we return this? So here we have this product context. So product context dot provider, and inside of this provider we pass the values. So here we have this value, and we simply pass this value to all the children we have. So here we can simply add a children here that we are getting inside of our props here. So we can simply provide it here, and we have this values. Okay, it is values, right? So we have this values here. Now we can simply export this product context, or you can simply create a custom hook. We can simply create a custom hook with the name of use product context, and we can simply use that hook, or else you can simply export the context, and you can simply, whenever you are required the context, so you can use the use context hook to use this thing. So we can simply export this product context here at this point of time, and now let's save this. Now it will not be working, because you just need to add this product context to your topmost level or the topmost hierarchy of your project. So for this you just need to add it inside of this index.js, and here you can simply add the product provider inside of this, and here you can simply wrap the application here inside of this product provider. Now let's save this, and now when you refresh this, you can see these things here. Now the first thing that you just need to add this the count of this here inside of this navigation bar. So let's go back to our nav bar, and here inside of this nav bar we can simply destructure the value that is required here, and here we will simply destructure it from the product context here. So how you can do this? So here we can simply create a use context here. So here let's call a hook which is a use context, and here we can simply provide the product context, and here we can simply get the basket count here. So here we can get the basket count, and here you can simply pass the count inside of here. So here you can simply pass the count here like this. Now let's save this. You will see here value is now 0. The next thing that we just, when we click on this, we just want this item to be added to the cart. So for this you just need to click on this, and here from when I click on this, the item should be added to the cart here. So for this, let's go back to your product details page. Let me do back it here. So when you click on this add to cart, we just want this product to be added inside of our cart, and we just want to do this. So here let's go back to this add to the cart, and here we can add our functionality of adding the cart here. So let's click on this. So here when I click on this button, which is a MDB button, so for this you just simply destructure the context here. So whatever we will require, we will simply get the data from there. So let's destructure this. So we will be required, so first of all let's create the context. So here we have this huge context, and here inside of this huge context we will simply provide the product context here, right? Okay, so inside of this huge context we will be required the product. Then we will have with this set product. So we will simply set the product, and we will simply pass the product. Then we have the count, so we can simply increment the count with that, and then we should have this set count like this. Then we have the basket state, so we have this basket state and set basket state like this, right? So we have import all the context values that we are required in this particular page here. So we have added this here. Then we have a functionality to add the cart. So let's add the on click functionality. So when I on click, we just simply when I click on this, we just simply call a function. Let's call a function add to cart, and let's define the function at the top here. Let's add the name of the function. So here let's define the function add to cart like this, like this. Okay, let me put the equal to sign here. So here we have this add to cart here, and here first of all we just want the increment the count. So let's increment the count of the set count. Whatever the count we have, we just need to increment it by 1. Then we simply set the basket, and here we can simply add a new product, or simply add a new item inside of our product. So inside of our basket. So for this we simply add the set basket, and here whatever the data inside of the basket, we just simply need to append a new data or the new product inside of our basket. So we just need to append a new product inside of our basket, and here we can simply do this. So here we have this basket, and here we have added a set set basket. Inside of this we have added the product inside of this basket. So here this is the function, very simple function. We can simply add it here. So at this point of time, we have not added a product, we have not updated the state of the product, because we just need to fetch the data from the GraphCMS API, the content API, and then when we get the details of that particular product item, then we can set the data to that product, and then we can simply add that particular item to the basket, and it should be definitely reflect inside of our basket here. So at this point of time, we have just added the product, but we have not anything inside of this product, but the count will be updated accordingly like this. Now let's save this. Let's click on this add to cart, and now you can see here the cart is now incremented by 1 here. So this is the thing that we are talking about here. Now the 2 items is added inside of this cart. Now you can make this cart now very nice. We can simply make this card dynamic. So for this, let's go back to our let me just copy the same thing, exactly the same thing that will be required inside of our card page. So let me search for the products in card, and let's import this thing. So we will require only the basket or the set basket, right? So we'll only require the basket kind of thing. Let me delete it. So we will require the basket or the set basket, and here we have this use context. So let's import this from the use context, and let's import the product context also. Okay, so we have this basket and we have the basket length, right? So these things, this statement only we seen when we have a we didn't have anything inside of our basket. So if the basket dot length equals to 0, like this, if the basket dot length is equals to 0, or else we can simply show this thing like this div, or this div, or else we can simply map around the length of the basket and we can simply pass a div. So for this, if it is not if we have the length of the basket is greater than 0, so then we can simply map around. So let me add the map of this, and here we will simply put here we will simply add this div inside of this map, right? And let me remove this 3 div, extra div, right? Okay, so we have mapped the data of the basket, and I'm not making it dynamic because the data is not coming directly here, but when we integrate it, we can make it a dynamic here, right? At this point of time, we can have this underscore the data, and we have this index, so we can pass the key right here. So let me add the key is I, which is an index. Now let's save this. Now you can see here we have a data inside of our cart, and now you can see here we have this these two things here, like the two data. So there is a two items in our cart here, right? And we will simply add this aggregation later when we make the data dynamic. So we will add the aggregation later here. At this point of time, let's add the functionality of deleting the item from the cart. So for deleting the items from the cart, you just simply update the count of the cart, right? So you can simply update the count of the basket or the items that is available in our product card. So it is very easy for this. So let me go back to the delete icon. So here is this delete icon. So let's add this on here. So on click, we can simply add a remove function, remove from cart, like this. So here we have this remove from cart item, or simply the function, we can simply add it here, and here we will simply pass the element or the simply the data that we are going to delete it here, right? So we will simply do exactly the same thing here. So we have these things here. Now we have E, and here we have this I. So here E is the element for which we are going to splice it, and I is the index of this, right? So let's create a function of delete. Let me remove from cart function. Just create this, and it takes two parameters. First one is the element and another is the index, right? So first one is the element, another is the index that we are just need to remove it here, right? So here we will simply create a new cart here. So let me just create a new cart. Let me put it inside of this const because it will run only one time. So here we have this new cart list or the basket list, and we just simply need to filter the basket. So let's filter basket dot filter, and when we filter the basket, we will have an item and then we have this index. Okay, so we have this item and then we have this index, and here we will simply filter that item. If the index does not match this, then we will simply remove this, and we can simply set the basket like this. So simply set the basket, and here we can simply set the basket whatever the data that we have inside of our new cart list, and we can simply do this, and then we can simply update the count. So for this, whatever the count we have here at this point of time, we can simply decrement it, like we can simply decrement it by 1. So let me import the count also. So let's import the count, let's import the count and set count like this. Now let's save this. Okay, there is an error, e is not defined. Okay, it is el, right? Sorry, it should be an index. Okay, it is perfect of x. Okay, but it should be el there, but we didn't have e, right? So instead of this, we will pass it later. So let me go back to here. So we will pass it later for the element. At this point of time, just pass the index here, right? So I don't think there is any requirement of the element at this point of time. Now let's save this. Now we have the 2 items in our product, in our cart, and let's remove one. Now you can see here the item is removed from the cart, and now the count is also decremented, and it is 1. When I click on this, now you can see you have not added anything in your cart, but we don't want to see this checkout there. So for this, you just simply add this thing. So if we have this basket, question mark dot length greater than 0, then you can simply show this. Then you can simply show this column, right? So if we have this basket dot length is greater than 0, then show this thing. Now you can see here there is nothing item in the added in the cart. So we are done with these things, like these things. The next thing that we just need to implement is the searching functionality. So but we will integrate the searching functionality when we make the things dynamic. So now the time is coming. Now we can simply integrate the GraphCMS API inside of our application to make it dynamic here, right? So for this, you just need to go to your GraphCMS website. As you can see here, we have already added these items inside of our application. Inside of this GraphCMS, we just need to get these items directly to our React application using the content API. So for this, you just guys need to go back to your the settings of this project setting. As you can see here, this is the product details here, and you will get the project ID here. And when you click on the environments, you will get the content API. From this API endpoint, you can simply directly get the data that is directly that is the product items, or the data you will get directly from this content API endpoints. And here, after that, here you can simply add the access control of that particular endpoints here. So first of all, for getting the fetching the content, you can simply use this API endpoint. For updating the assets, or you can simply upload the asset using this API, or for the management of this, you can simply use this API, or you can simply add the public content API, whatever the endpoint you want to give the user the permission. So you can add the permission here. So here I have added the permission of read, create, update, delete, publish or unpublish here to the user, but you can simply only give the permission of only read, and I'm not going to give the permission of create, update on this. So you can simply hide the permission or simply delete the permission basically here. So let's delete the permission. So whatever the permission you will give, the only that particular operation will be happen on that particular thing. So you can we just want to simply fetch the data, and I'm not going to simply push the data here. So for this, I'm just revoking all the permissions for the users that I have given for the publish or the unpublish here. So let's delete every permission, just only give the permission of reading the data, right? So the next thing is to consume this endpoint here that we are getting is the content API. Let's copy this and we will consume this endpoint. And now very interesting thing that is coming along with this graph CMS API graph CMS UI is the API playground. So API playground is very important for you to structure your query for GraphQL here, because you can see here we can get everything of the endpoints from there in a GraphQL. So you have to a strong knowledge of a GraphQL, and if you are a beginners, you can simply go with the API playground and just play with the data exactly that is coming here, and you can simply get the query of exactly what we are looking or finding out here. So you can see here we have this query here. We are getting in this query we are adding the data or simply reading the data of this item. So when I click on this now, okay, so we have to pass the variable inside of this. So let me remove everything from here. We just don't want pass the variable. Now you can see here there is error message of okay where type is required. So here for the item you just need to put a where type, or else for getting the data we can simply use the items, right? So instead of this query we can simply remove everything, and from here, so from here we can simply add the items data, right? So for this let's click on the items, and which data you just want, simply click on that. So I just want the ID, item name, item overview, item price, publish at, right? So here these data we just want it. So let's click on this play. Now you can see you will get all this data here. So that's the thing that we are talking about here. So this is a very interactive UI API playground. So you can simply play around with your APIs, and you can simply use this structured query in your application to get the data or simply fetch the data directly from the graph CMS here. So let's go back to our Visual Studio Code and let's integrate this data in our application, right? So here we have this. Let me make it smaller. Okay, just put it down. Sorry, just put it down here. Just put it down here. Okay, so now we have this thing here. Okay, now here at the very top page, that we just want the data that is to be shown directly here, right? So let's go back to our product details page. So we have this product, sorry, the products page, right? Not the product details. We just want to fetch all the data, right? So this is the product page here, and for this we just want the items to be sent to this here. So we will simply pass the data to directly here, and we will call the API endpoint at in the app.js, and we simply pass the data as a props to this item here. So let's go back to your app.js, and here we will simply pass the data inside of this route, the product route, and we can simply pass the data here, and we can simply make it dynamic there. Okay, now let's create an state to receive the data inside of this. So inside of this we can simply create the state of this items, set items, and initially oops, and initially the items data should be an empty string. Let's import the user state from the React. Okay, so we have this items data here, and we will simply call it when the component loads. So we will call it when inside of this use effect. So let's call it inside of this use effect, and here we will call it inside of this our use effect here. So here we will simply add a sync function. Let me add a sync function. Okay, sorry, async function, and just give the function name get all products like this. And here we will simply add a API Axios request, and here we will simply get the content API. So let me go back to the environment of the, or simply the settings page, and let's click on the environment, and now you get the URL of this of this content API, or else you can simply click on this endpoints. You will get the you will get the content API here, right? So here is this content API. Let's copy it, and now inside of this product, products.js, sorry, get all the products function, we will simply call a Axios request here. So here let's call the Axios, just import the Axios from Axios, and here we will simply call it, so Axios.request. So we will simply call this Axios.request, and here we will pass the URL. So first of all, let's pass the URL of the content API. So here is the URL of the content API, and then we pass the method. So let me add the method. Okay, just put the comma here. Let me add the method here. So for the method, it should be post method, right? You will get the methods directly from the API playground. So which methods we are hitting and getting there, and then inside of this data, we will simply query the data using a very structured query. We need to get the data because the data is coming from the GraphQL here. So here we just need to query your data accordingly to that. So here you can simply add the query inside of this data column, and here inside of this query just add a backtick. Okay, let me add the backtick instead of this, sorry. Okay, so this is the query data that is coming. Let me just delete this. Okay, so let's add the backtick here, and inside of this query data we have an items like this. So you will get this exactly the same query inside of your API playground. So this is exactly the same query that I'm going to run it to get the whole data of the particular items model or the items endpoint here, right? So here we have this items, or inside of this items, let me add these items. So inside of this items, we will simply call the ID. We just need the ID. We will need the item name. We just need the item overview. We will need the, sorry, item overview. We will use the item price. We will use the asset. For the image URL, we will be using category, and then we will be using the created at, right? So this is the created at, right? This, so in this way you will fetch the data inside of your application, right? So here you can simply fetch the data. So simply call it the function get all products like this. So here in this way you can simply fetch the data and simply pass the data to your to the products here. You can simply pass the data to your components and simply make it dynamic here, right? So let's go back to our, so here this is the API request, and it just add the await here instead of this. So let's add the await. When it returns the data, then update the state of this. So here we will simply update our state. So set items. So let's set the item res.data dot, and here you can simply get the response format here. So here when you run this, you will see the response format is data, and inside of data there is a items in array, right? So here we have this res.data.data, and inside of this data we have this items exactly like this. Now let's save this, and you just simply pass the data inside of this. So like this, you can simply pass the data like items, and here you can simply pass the state of this. So simply pass the state of this item. Now let's go back to your products here, and here you can simply add the items here like this. So here we have added the items, and now we can make the data dynamic of this using this. So we just need to map around the data, each and every data that we are getting from the API endpoint, and we can simply map the data each and every time that we are getting directly here. So inside of this product.jsx, we will simply map around the data, right? And let's go back to there. So here we can simply map around the data, but we have the search functionality also, and we just want the search functionality to be triggered along with it, right? So for this we just want to import the context of the products here. So we have the context. Let me import it from the use context. So we here inside of this use context we just pass the product context, and we will be using the search. So we will be using the search term. So whatever the search term we are using, we will simply import the search term here, and inside of this search bar we will use the simply update the state of the search term when we change or simply enter anything inside of this. So for this we just simply need to add or simply create a context same inside of this. So for this let's copy the same thing from here, and just copy the same thing from here and paste it inside of this search bar like this. And here we will simply import the use context. So let's import the use context and the product context first of all. So here is the use context and here is the product context here. So here we have here we will be using the set search term we will require, because we just need to update the state for that particular context. And then we will have a handle, we will have a input field. So when we write anything inside of this, we just want to search the data according to our need. So for this we just simply add a on change functionality on the input field. So on change we will simply call the data handle change. Let's create a function called handle change at the very top of here. So let's create a const handle change, and here, so here inside of this handle change we will simply, first of all we will prevent the synthetic events using the prevent default. So here we have this prevent default FAULT, right? So here we have this prevent default, and let's set the term using this e.target.value. So e.target.value. So we have added this thing. So the search term is now updated, and we will get the updated result inside of this search term, directly inside of our search term. Now we will first filter the data, and then we will map the items or the map the data that we will be render it there. So first of all we will filter the data and then map the data exactly like this. So here, as you guys can see here, we have this MDB row, and inside of this MDB row we have this MDB column. So we have a bunch of MDB columns. So I'm just going to remove, I just put only one column and remove the rest of the column here. So let me just collapse each and every column first of all that is not going to be used. Okay, so let's remove all these columns except the one. So we will simply remove this column from here, right? So here we have this column and we have removed all the columns here, right? Okay, and then we will make the data dynamic. So for this we just simply add a filter for the searching functionality. So it is very easy. We can simply call the items that we are getting from the props, and we will simply do the filter, and here we will simply get the value of the filter here. And if we will add, if we get the search term, so if we get the search term which is equal to empty string, then we just return nothing, anything, or we just return the data that, we just return exactly the all the data that is we are getting from the filter here. So we will simply return the value, right? Else if we get the data, else if we else if so if we get the data like the value, okay, if we get the data inside of this value, so if the value dot item overview, so if we will check the data that is matching from the description, right? So if the data is matching from the description or from the title, right? So we will simply match the data from the description or from the title. Let me add it. So if we just need to match the data from the item overview, so let's add the overview dot to lowercase. So we will simply convert it to the lower case, and we will simply check it using the includes dot includes function. So let's check it using the dot includes, and here we will have the search term. So let's add the search term, and we will simply make it also the lowercase. So search dot to lower case. So if we simply here from this, we will, if we have the data that is inside of the search term, right? So if we get the data inside of our search term, we will simply match it inside of our overview section of the product, right? So here we have added these things here, or else we can simply if we get the data, we will simply return the value, or else we can simply return the false. So the extreme condition will be return false here, right? So we get the data inside of our filter, and now we can simply do the map on that particular filter of the data. So inside of this map, we have the data and we have the index of this. So let's add this thing and just add the data inside of our map. Just grab this call and put it inside of this map, and just add the key, just only add the key for the call. So let's add the key, should be I here, right? Okay, so now the time is come. Now let's save the data. Okay, let me check if there is any error coming. So the data is coming with the status of 400. So let's see the what's the error is coming inside of this network. Let's refresh the data. So here we have getting the data and it is coming, fetching the error. Okay, now let's see the error is. Okay, so field item overview is not defined in the item. Okay, so item overview is not defined in the item, is coming the date is coming the error here, right? So yeah, as you can see here, we have added a very I have misspelled the spelling of the item overview. So let's fix that inside of this app.js. So let's go back to here. So here is this item overview. Let me add this v. Now let's save the. Now you can see here the data is coming, and the data is coming exactly the 7 data that we have inside of our CMS there, right? So here is the 7 data is coming. Now you can see here the 7 data is coming, but we just need to make the data dynamic. So let's go back to our product.js, and here first of all we just need to make the data dynamic for the image. So for this source, here let's remove everything from there, and here we will simply add here x dot asset dot image URL, and this is exactly the same thing that you have created the field name inside of the schema in your CMS. You can simply add these things directly here, and you will see the data is now is being dynamic here. So now data is dynamic, you can simply see it here. So data is coming dynamically here, and here we can simply update the name and everything like this here. So here we have this name, so we have this name item, sorry, I oops, item name. Now let's save this. You will see the name of the items, but it is, you can see here the name of the items taking a very long name. So for this you just need to fix the name of the items, and you can see here the product card is just making our image, is just wrapping our image. So we just need to fix this also. So for the dynamic product card width height that we have given it, let me put it just a 400. Let me save this. Okay, it should be 600 now. Now save this. Okay, it's making it is a lot way bigger. Just give it the 500. Okay, so now it is fine, or else we can simply give it the 450 of the size. Now let's, oh sorry, now let's save this. So it is now 450. It is looking perfect now. Okay, so we have this name, but it is taking a very all the very long way. So for this we just simply create a truncate functionality. So for the text truncation, so for this we just simply create a truncate function. So for this we just simply add a export const truncate, sorry, trunk truncate, and here for the truncate functionality, it will take two arguments. The first one, the string, the length, sorry, the string, and the n is the length of the string. So for which you just need to create a substring, and it will return the it will return the string. So how it will return? So it will simply search the, let me just typecast it into the string. So if str.length is greater than n, so if it str.length is greater than n, then we will simply return the substring of the string. So how we will create the substring? So we will simply parse this to a string, and then we will use the substring function, and inside of the substring function we will take the string dot length from 0 to n minus 1 that we have here, and we will simply concatenate, simply let's concatenate it. So simply concatenate it with the triple dot, so that it just simply basically tells us that there is a more data to be read. And then if it is not greater than the specified length, then we will simply return the str whatever we are sending it here. So this is the truncate functionality that we are creating, very basic truncate functionality. So for the text truncation here, so for this image, for this item name, so we will simply pass it inside of this truncate function, right? So for this you can simply pass it inside of this truncate, and inside of this truncate we just want this to be truncated after 25th character. So you can see here after 25th character there is a triple dot here, or you can simply give it the 15 or the 20 or the 23 like this. So after 20 character it will be simply truncated here. So now the text is truncated. Now you can see here it is very nice looking UI is now you can see here. Now we have this formatter for the text, and we have this camera. With this we just need to make it dynamic. So for this it should be a category. So we have added the category like this. Now let's save this. You will see all the data is now dynamic on the home page here. And now we just need to add this data inside of our product details. So let's go back to our product details, and here when we click on this data, we just want to pass the ID of the data inside of our URL. So for this let's make it inside of this. Okay, let me put back it here, and we just put it inside of this backtick. So here we just want to redirect the user to the ID, particular ID. So here we should pass the x dot id that we will get it here. So here we will simply pass this, exactly the same thing we can simply do it for for this thing also. So let's put this. Now let's save this. So when we click on this, there will be a unique ID you will see in the URL. So now you can see here the unique ID. Let me show you the unique ID. So this is the unique ID that is saved on our CMS, and it is now coming directly here. And we will simply use this ID to make the data dynamic, and we will simply use this ID to make the data dynamic and fetch the data directly from the CMS using the query, right? So for this you just need to go back to your product details page, and inside of this product details, let me go back to the product details page. So here is our product details page, and here inside of this product details page we will simply fetch the data of that particular ID inside of here. So for this we will use our use params hook to get the parameters. So here we will fetch the ID using the use params. So here is the use params. Let's import the use params from React router DOM. So here should be our use params, and use params will return the id that is the id that we have mentioned in our app.js. And here we have this id, and we are getting this id inside of our using this use params hook. And here we will simply create a query and a variable, so for getting the data from the particular data here. So for this you just simply create a object. Let me just create an object of query. So here is the query object here, and inside of this query object, let me add it inside of this curly bracket, the backtick here. And here we will simply define our variable, which is the name of which is the id. So we are defining that variable which is id, and which is and this id is of type id. So for that we have just added the variable and the type of that variable, right? Okay, so inside of this, then we will need to simply fetch the data of that particular id. So here we will simply look into the item model, where we will use this where clause, and here we can add the inside of this where, and we will simply define this id is equal to the variable of the id, whatever the id we have. And and then at the end we will simply query the data, which data you want. So first of all, this item name, then we will add item overview, like this overview. Sorry, yeah, it is perfect. And then we will use the item price. So this would be item price, this would be our asset. Then we have this category, then we have this created at, like this. So here we have this query. Similarly, we can create our variable. So let's create a variable object. So here we have this variable object, and here we have this id, which is basically the id that we will get it from the parameters of the url here. So we have this variable, we have this id, and now we can call this using the use effect hook. So let's call the data. So let's call the data using the use effect hook, and here we will create a function, async function. So let's create a async function, async function get product details. This is the async function that we have created it here. And now we will create a axios request. So here we have this axio await. Sorry, let me add this await axios. Let me import the axios from the axios. Import axios from axios, and here we will simply add the axios request here. So axios dot request, and here we will have a bunch of things, like first of all is the url. So here with the url we will get it from the product.js. So this is our url. Let's go back to there, here inside of this app.js. Sorry, so this is our url. Let's copy it, just go back to this product details. Let's paste this. Okay, sorry, let's paste this url. Then we will have the method. Sorry, then we will have the method. So method would be post. Sorry, post. Then we have our data. So inside of this data we will pass both our query, and we will pass our variables, right? So we will pass our query and the variables. When the data, we will get the data inside by the successful running of this query, we will get the data, and we will simply set the data directly inside of our product that we are talking about, the set product functionality. So the set product is coming from the context, and we will simply set the product that we will getting the data. So here this our data, res.data.item. So this is the data that we will get in here, and we will simply set this data inside of our product here, and we will simply use the product here. So for this you just simply need to do, here we will get the data inside of this product. So we will simply show the product.id. So we will simply get the data from this id, or else you can simply use the url of that. So for this you will simply add the id, and you will simply get the data from the url. Here we will simply add the category. So for the category we will get the category from the product. So product dot category, like this. Now let's save this. Let me check it is working or not. Now you can see here the ID is coming directly here, but the category is not coming. Let me see if there is any error. Okay, there is an error because we have not added any dependency here. So let's add the dependency, and here we have this ID. We'll have the ID and the set product. Let me add this set product here, right? So we have this ID and we have this set product here. So then we will have a query also. Let me add the query or the variables, right? But it will show the error, but we cannot add the query or the variables. It will be running exactly the one time or whenever there is a change in the ID. So let's save this. So I have just saved this. Let me just refresh the data, and I have just refreshed the data. Let me see whether it is running, whether it is getting the data or not. So exactly we can see here the data is exactly coming here, and here is the details of all the data that is coming here. But we just want the data that is coming at this page, the single data that we just want. So for the single details, we just want to show the single data here. So this is not coming because we just not call this function. Let me call the function first of all. That's a blunder mistake that I have done it here. Okay, let's call the function. Now let's save this, and now let's check. Yeah, it is, the error is now coming. Now let's check the what is the error is exactly about. So create at is not okay. So this is not a data. This is a created at, not a create at, right? So like now let's save this. Now the data is coming. Okay, so item is null. Okay, so let me check it. Okay, variable is there, right? Perfect. Okay, so here the data is not coming because here it should be variables, not a variable. So that's why the data is not coming. Let's save this. Okay, so now it is coming here. Now the category we are getting, which is perfect. Now the next thing that we just need to make it dynamic, the image of the data that is directly coming from the CMS. So for this, let me add the image. So for this, we just add the product dot, and here for the product dot, you can simply add asset, and inside of this asset we have this image, and we have this URL. Now let's save this. You will see the image here coming. Next thing, we have this price. So for this price, we have this x dot item price. Let me add this item price. Now save this. You will get the item price. Sorry, not x. It is a product. So let me add the product. Sorry, it is a product. Oops, the spelling mistake. So it is the product. Now let's save this. So now the product is now coming here. Now we need to add the description of this item. So for this description, item description, let's add it inside here. So for the item description, we will add this. So for this, we have a product dot item overview, like this. Now let's save this, and there is a long overview for this. We just want it to make it trunk it, or else we can simply remove it, or else we can make simply make it a text truncation. So let's truncate the text. Let's truncate, and here inside of this truncate, we just want the truncate the text to the 200 characters. After 200 characters, we want the truncation. Let's import the truncation. Now let's save this. So here we can simply see, here we have the details here, but it is truncated for the 200. Now let's add the 300. Now let's save this. So we have this data that is truncated to the 300 characters here. Now the thing here, we have this add to cart. You can simply click on this. So it is now added to our cart here. Now the next thing that is, we just need to create a dynamic component for the dynamic of the cart component, the shopping cart component. So let's go back and go to our product cart. So product details, sorry, product in cart, and here we can simply make the content dynamic, right? So whatever we will get, so we will simply get everything inside of our basket. So for this basket, we will simply map the data, and we have this data inside of this underscore here. So we can simply make the data dynamic using this. So for this, first of all, we just make it dynamic of the link that is coming here. So instead of this, we just simply pass the product. So product, and here we will have the underscore id. So let's add the update underscore dot id, so that this will be redirect the user directly to the particular page of that of that product here, right? So here inside of this source, we have this underscore dot we have this asset and dot image url. So we will get the data like here image we are getting here. Now let's update the name of the items. So here should be the name of the items come here. So here should be the name of the items that should come here. So here is the item name. So underscore dot item name. Now let's save this, but it is taking a very long name. So let me just truncate the name. So let's truncate and let's add the truncate. So let's truncate it, truncate the text, and we will simply truncate the text after 20 characters. Now let's save this. Okay, let's import the truncate. So let's import the truncate. Now the data is truncated after 20 character. Let me make it a 30. Okay, now let's see here. So now the data is coming here. Next is our price. So for this price, we can simply add underscore dot item price. Now let's save this. So here is the data is dynamic. Now the next thing that comes is our checkout functionality. So for the checkout functionality, we just need the aggregate function, or simply aggregate all the data, that is all the items that is added inside of our basket, and we just need to aggregate of all the data here. So for the aggregation, we will use the reduce function. So reduce function is very powerful. So simply you can use this reduce function to aggregate the data, or the aggregate the simply aggregate the values of or the price of the products that we will be get inside of our basket. So let's create an aggregate function. So for this, you just need to go at the top, and here we will create a let aggregate. So aggregate, and here inside of this aggregate, we will simply use the reduce function. So here we will simply use a basket dot reduce, and here we will reduce with the previous value. So we have the previous value, and we will have the current value. So we will have the previous value, and we have this current value, and we will simply update the previous value with the summation of the current value and the previous value that we will get here. So we will do the summation, the easy summation here. So for this, we will simply return. So whatever we get inside of our previous value, we will simply save or simply aggregate the current value dot item price. Now let's save this. Okay, sorry, there is an error coming here. So we have this current value basket dot reduce, not reduct. Sorry, it is my mistake. So this is basket dot reduce. Now let's save this. Now let's refresh the page. Okay, the error is exactly coming. Now let me check this. Okay, it is required to have an initial value for the aggregation. So let's add the initial value of aggregation to 0. So it will take, now it will simply add the aggregation here. So here we have added the aggregate, initial value 0. Okay, because I have refreshed the page, so that's why the item inside of the cart has been removed, because we have not using the redux. So for storing the user state in our local or whatever is the things, but we can simply using the context here. So for the state of the user to be stored, and we can simply pass this state directly to our database, and when we get back to this, we can simply persist the data. So that's why it just got away when we refresh the page, but still we can add these things. So here we have this added the okay, so here we have added this cart here. So for this you just need to add a aggregate simply to here. So let's add the aggregate here. So here we will simply aggregate all the data. So let's add data. So simply click on this, click on the add to cart. Now let's add this phone. Let's add to this cart and go back to here. Now you can see here we have this aggregate of both of these, the first and the second. When we delete this, now you can see here it is updated automatically here. So we are done with this integration part of the data. Now our main focus and the next focus, we should have to keep the data consistent with this. So now our data is done and we have added these things here. So you can see here it is working perfectly. But you can see here the card, the alignment is shifted to the very left of this. So we just need the we just simply make this card centrally aligned, the items to be centrally aligned, so it look nicer. So let's go back to our Visual Studio Code, and here inside of our products, let's go back to the products. Sorry, it is products. Inside of this product, we just want to make all the data. Let me add the CSS for this. I have added it, but there is a spelling mistake for the center, so it is not coming there. Like, okay, now it is centrally aligned, but the text should be centrally aligned, but it is now looking perfect. Otherwise it is working fine. Okay, so we are done with these things, and now the next part is to simply add the payment integration or the checkout form here, or the checkout page. We just need to create it here. So for this we just need to create the checkout page. Okay, so for that we just simply need to integrate the Stripe payment integrations for this. So let's integrate the Stripe here. So to integrate the Stripe in your React application, you guys need to have an account on Stripe. So let's create an account on the Stripe, and when you successfully create the account on the Stripe, you will get this dashboard of the Stripe, and you will get these two things: the private key, the publishable key, or the secret key. So the secret key is very important for you guys to make it very secret, and the private key you can simply use it in your client side, and the secret key you definitely use it in your server side here. So to integrate the payment for the Stripe, you just need to listen for the payment intents, and then you can simply use this payment intent to verify the user with your backend code, or backend code using the Stripe SDK, right? So when you click on the payments, if you have all the transactions, you can simply see here these all the transactions that we have done it here. Okay, so here you can click on the all the transactions, and you will get all the data that is coming here. Now our next concern is to create an account, or the Stripe account, and then we just simply create a payment intents or the checkout page for the Stripe. So for this, so let's get started and just create this thing inside of our application. So for this, you just need to create a checkout form or the checkout page here. So let's create a checkout page here. So this is our checkout.jsx. So here I'm just creating the checkout.jsx, and inside of this app.js, let me create a functional component, initial functional component. So this is our checkout page. So this is our checkout page, right? So let's add this thing inside of our routes. So inside of this, let's create a route here. Okay, so here this is our route. Let's give the path. Sorry, the path is this. Here this is our checkout, and here for the checkout page, we will simply pass the ID, the payment intents ID that we will get from verifying the user using the card or the elements. We will verifying the user with the amount, or the simply create a client secret from this. So we will simply pass that uh, client secret inside our checkout params. So we will add it inside of this ID, or else we can simply give it another name here, right? So for this you just need to add all the dependencies that is required for the payment integration for the Stripe. So initially, in the first part, we have already installed the packages that is required for the payment integration using a Stripe. So we will using the Stripe.JS or the REACT.JS 2 packages that we will be required to integrate to build a payment integration. So here we have a route exactly here that you can see here, where we have this route here, and we will simply fetch the data, right? Sorry, which has the client secret data or the payment intents inside of this ID, and we will use this, get this ID using the use params methods, right? So let's listen it on an ID. Let's just give the element name. So here we have this checkout data like this, and just close this. Sorry, just close the opening tag here. Now let's save this. We have this checkout here, and here inside of this checkout, let me go back to here. So this is our checkout.jsx, and here we just need to create the payment intents. And before creating the payment intents, we need the client. We just need to create a customer, right? Just need to create a client secret or the customer. We just need to create that. So for this, we will need a backend server for that. So to verify the just verify the user with the amount that we are required to be paid here. So for this we will use backend server. So for this let's create a folder with the name of backend. So let's create the folder with the name of backend, and here we will just create a server.js. Let's create the server.js, and here inside of the server.js, first of all let's open the terminal and install the dependencies that is required, right? So let's open the terminal, and here inside of our backend let's do the npm init. So when you do the npm init, just put it init, just put everything like this. So here we are just added the package.json. Now let's install the express. We will be using the express here, and we will using the stripe here. So we will using the express and the stripe, and now hit the enter button. So it will simply install the express or the stripe inside of our backend, and now we can simply use these things to create our backend server.js. So first of all let's import the express. So const express, let me add this const express, and here we just do the require express, right? Okay, and then we can simply create a router, or simply create the app. So simply create the app using this express dot router, right? So let's go back to our folder. So here we have created our app using the express.route, and here, right, and then we just add a stripe. So for this you just need to add const stripe, and here we will be using the require stripe, and here comes your secret key. So here comes your secret key. So let me adjust, your secret key comes here. So let me move it. So your secret key, so you can add your secret key here. You will get it directly from the dashboard of your stripe. So your secret key comes here, and I will just create a secret.js file, and here just create a secret dot js, and here we will simply export the const, and here const here, and here my your secret key, and here we will paste my secret key. And for the security purpose, I will simply move to the server.js file, and we will paste the secret key here. So you can simply create and paste the secret key here. So I have imported the secret key here inside of this our Stripe, and now let's use the app.use, and we will use the express.json because we will interact with the JSON data, and then we will simply set our request header methods and the access origin methods here. So we will be using the app.use, and here we will have the request, response, and the next here, and we will simply set all the headers. So response.header, we will simply listen from all these things. So we will simply add the access control allow origin origin, and we will simply add it to from everywhere. So allow origin is everywhere, and we can simply add the headers too for this. So next can simply add the same thing like this, just copy the same thing and just paste it down here, and one more thing, paste it down here. So first one for the origin, and then next one will be the headers. So this one will be the headers, access control allow origin, access control allow headers from everywhere, and then we will have the access control methods. So access control request methods. So here we will have the request method. So here we will have the request method here, and let me put it the request method. So here is everything we have just added it here. Now the next thing, if everything is fine, then we will simply do it the next step to move to the next logic of our application. Now we will simply add the route, or simply add the endpoint or the API, and then we will simply listen to our simply start our server, node server, using this. So you just simply add the app.listen, and here we will simply listen on the port 8080. So here we just simply add the listen on the port 8080, and here is the callback function, and here we simply console the operation that running on port 8080, right? So we have added this thing, and now we just need to create our payment intent. So for this payment intent, we just need two things: the amount, the currency, or we just need payment methods, the automatic payment method option, right? So you will get the things directly in the documentation of the Stripe, or else you can simply use, because we will be using the Stripe UI for getting the payment interface, and we will simply authenticate the user using the backend of our own backend here, right? So here we will simply create a data, or simply endpoint for creating the payment intent. So for this, we just create an endpoint of this. Let me add the endpoint name of is the secret, and it just takes amount in the parameters. So here we just added the AMT amount, and then we will simply call async method. We will have the request, then we have the response, and then we will simply call the payment intent method. So let's get it inside of this payment intent object, and inside of this payment intent object, we will simply call a stripe dot payment intents dot create, and here we will simply create the payment intents. The first one should be the currency. So the currency should be INR. So here is the currency. Then we have the amount. So for this amount, we will get the amount directly from the parameters. So request.parameters.amt, and the amount is by default paisa. So we'll just need to convert it to the rupees. So we just need to multiply it by 100, then we just need to set the automatic payment methods. So for the automatic underscore payment payment underscore methods. So the automatic payment method either would be the payment methods either would be a card or the link, but the automatic payment methods we just simply enable it true like this. So I will just simply enable it true. So let's enabled at the enabled, just at the true. So when we get the payment intent directly from this, so we will simply add this. So a stripe.payment intent just basically create a payment intent with the amount of this 100 the amount of this that we will get it from the parameters of that, and then we will simply create a payment intent for that particular amount. And now we will simply have this intent. So let's add this inside of this intent, and this intent we will simply add inside of this payment, and we will simply send the response to the user. So for this we will simply add the response dot status, and it would be at 200, and then we will simply send the client secret. So here we will simply send the client secret to the front end, and here we will have this client underscore secret. So client secret would be intent dot client secret. So this client secret will be required for further verification for that particular payment intent that will be created there, right? So this is the endpoint that we have created it here, and we will be using this endpoint to send this payment intent to the checkout page, and then we will simply do the verification from there on. Now let's save this, go back to our checkout page here. So let's go back to our checkout.jsx. So inside of this checkout.jsx, we will first need to get the payment in we will first need to get the id or the payment intents, that the payment intents client secret that we will just created using the backend. So this API is created only when we just click on the pay now button. So for this you just need to go back in our payment details page. So inside of this payment details, let's just go back to the product details, the product details page. So inside of this product details, we have this start order now function. So now on click on this, so we have just add the functionality of handle checkout. So for this handle checkout, we will simply call that particular endpoint here. So for this, to call this particular endpoint, you just need to start the server. So to start the server, you just need to open the terminal, and inside of this terminal, let's check out cd into the backend, and here you just need to do the npm start. So for doing the npm start, you just need to install the node1. So let's install the node1. So npm install node1. Oh, sorry. So npm install node1, and here inside of this package.json, you just need to add here the node1 server.js. Now let's save this. Here we have added the node1 here, and now you can simply do the npm start. So it will simply start our it will start our backend server. So here is unexpected token export. Let me check where it is. There is client secret. Okay, so here we just simply add to. Okay, there is an issue. Okay, so there is error that is coming here, the express.router, but we just need to create only the express middleware. So we just need to do this. Okay, let me go back to. So it is now running on the port 8080, which is successfully running here. Okay, so now our server is running. Now let's go back to our product details here, and here we have this. Here we have already called create a function called handle checkout. So let's define a function at the top. So here const handle checkout, and here is the function const handle checkout, and here we will simply call a async method. So let me call it async, and here let's call await axios, and we will simply get this from the URL, which is http colon localhost port 8080, and here we have this secret, and here we have just passed the amount of that thing. So for this you just simply add the product item price. So here we have this product underscore here this item, and here we have this price here. So on successful data that we will get it from, so we will receive the client secret. So we will simply receive a client secret here. So we will simply, when we will get the client secret, we will simply navigate to the checkout page. We just want to do that. So for this you just need to create a navigate from the use navigate hook. So here we have this use navigate. Let's import the use navigate from React router down. So here we have this use navigate. Okay, so here is inside of this navigate, we will simply navigate the user to the checkout page. So let's navigate to the let's navigate to the checkout page, and here we will have the client secret or the ID, which basically generates the client secret, and we will use this client secret to verify or the process out our next information that will be done from the checkout form. Basically it just asks the user for input of the email, input of the card details from there. So you can simply add this here. So we just need to add the client secret, the response that we will get it from there. So here we will simply add the response. So let's add the response dot. So here raise.data dot client underscore secret. So here we will simply redirect the user to the checkout page, and here we will simply pass the client secret as ID to that checkout page here. Now let's save this, and this is the HTTP localhost 8000 secret, and here is the ID parameter. It is working perfectly. Now let's go to our checkout page here. In checkout page we have the data. You just need to get the data directly. The elements we will get the elements from the stripe, React stripe JS, and we just need to add a pay now button or simply submit button. So for the user to simply submit the end request here, and when on successful submit, we will simply add a payment successful page. So we will simply redirect the user to that particular success URL. Right, so to redirect the user to the particular success URL, we will simply create a payment success page. So this is our payment success dot JSX. So we will simply redirect the user when we will do the successful payment integration. So here we will simply add a simple thing, like we will simply add here payment done successfully, payment done successfully, and we will simply design this page according to our need. And this is a simple text that we have just added it here. Let me make it at strong, and here let me just make it strong for the sake of testing purpose right now. Okay, now inside of this checkout.js, we just simply do a few things inside of this checkout.js. First thing, we just load our stripe.js stripe.js component here. So for this you just need to load it. So for this we just simply create or simply load the stripe. So let's load the stripe at the here. So let's do const stripe, and here we will simply use the function load stripe and just import the load stripe function from here. And inside of this load stripe, you just need to pass the publishable key inside of this. So you can simply pass the publishable key in form of a string. Let me put it inside of this. So here you just need to pass the publishable key inside of this load stripe method, and here we will simply add a loader method. So for the skeleton, to show the skeleton, by default a skeleton, so we will simply add the loader to auto. So here we will simply add a skeleton there, right? So we are done with this. Now inside of this our checkout page, here we will get the id inside of our parameters, and where we will simply get the client secret. So here we will simply get the id inside of this checkout page. So here we will simply get the id. So let's add it here inside of this. So let me add it, use params, and let's import the use params from React router DOM. So let's import it. Let's import here use params. Sorry, let's import use params from React router DOM. React router DOM. So here comes our use params, right? So here we have this id. Let's destructure the id. Okay, so we have this id inside of this. We will get it from the use params here, and just simply use this id as a client secret. So if we get the id, like I'll just add it here, if we get the id, we will simply return the user. So here we can simply add a if statement here. If we get the id, then simply add a return statement like this. Let me put it there, right? So if we get the id of the user, okay, so if we get the id of the user means the client secret. If we get the client secret successfully on the response that we will get from the backend, we will simply call the elements of the stripe.js, right? React stripe.js here. So we will simply import the elements. So let's import the element. So here we have this element here and elements, and we will simply import the elements from the React stripe.js. So let's import the elements, and inside of this we will simply create another component, that is the checkout. So let's create a checkout form. We will create it later, checkout form. And here inside of this element we just need to pass the stripe. First of all, the publishable key as there, and then we simply pass the options, and inside of this option we have a client secret, and the client secret is basically the id we have. So let's destructure it like a client secret. So we have this client client secret is just like a id, and then we have a loader. So we have this loader, like we just want this loader to be running, or the skeletons to be running when there is a component is loading directly from the stripe page here, right? So here we have added the checkout form here, and for this let me add this let me add the include bracket. So we have this checkout form. Let's create a checkout form here. So for creating the checkout form, we just need to create the same thing like function. Let me create a checkout function. So function, so we have this checkout form, and here so here we have this. So inside this checkout form we will use a hook which is called use a stripe. So we have this const stripe, and we will simply call this hook use a stripe. So let's import this use a stripe hook. Then we will call this elements too. So here we have this elements, and here we have this use elements hook, right? Then we have then we will simply want to navigate the user on successful payment. So we will simply use the navigate from the use navigate sorry. So we will simply we will use this use navigate here. Let's import the use navigate here from the React router DOM. So here we have this use navigate, right? So here we have this use navigate, and then we have these things here, right? Okay, then we have the product, whichever the product we will click on this. Sorry, there is a use navigate. So let's get the product. So const product. So whatever the product currently is selected product, we will get it from here. So let's fetch it from the use context. So use context hook, and here we will simply pass the product context like this. Okay, so we have this thing here, and now next we have to simply add a submit functionality, like when we done the payment, like the confirm the payment, and then we will just simply create a component. Okay, so then we will simply add a return. So let's add the return of this, and inside of this return we will simply add a bunch of things like mdb container. So mdb container, so we will be using the mdb container. So let's import mdb container. First of all, import from mdb react ui kit, and here we have this mdb container, mdb container. Then we will be using the mdb row, then we will be using mdb column, then we will be using mdb button. So we have this mdb container. Inside of this mdb container we have this mdb row, and inside of this mdb row we have a mdb column, and inside of this mdb column we have a form. So let's create a form, but inside of this form we have a h3 tag. Let's give the h3 tag of payment, and for the payment we will be using the payment element. We will use the payment element, and we will import the payment element from the React Stripe JS. And after this payment element we have a div. Let's create a div, and inside of this div we will have a button. So we have this mdb button, and inside of this button we have two functionality, a back, and then we have a button with functionality of back or simply submit. So here we have this back, and then we have this functionality of submit. So we have two button, back or submit. So we can simply add the css for this also. So here we have this button back, or we have this mdb button, which is a submit. Okay, so here we have this thing. Now let's add the css for the container. So container, we just give the background color and everything is like it is fine here. For the row we just want everything to be centered, so we just give it the center. And for the column we just give the md. Let's add the md of 12, and lg of 6, right? So for the longest screen it should be a 6 by 50%, and for the shorter screen it will be a 20 sorry, the 100% of the screen size is here. Now the div we have here, so let's give the class name to the div. Let's give the class name of display flex, and justify content end, justify content end, like this. So we are done with this. Now we have this back button, we have this submit button, and when we click on the submit we will simply call a trigger a method, or simply give a class name first of all for the submit button. So margin top of 3, or margin top of 3, or similarly we can see with the same class or simply remove this class name from here. Just simply give a class here, margin top of 3, like this. Okay, so we have this back button, we have this submit button. So when we click on the submit, so on click of submit, we will simply call a handle submit, or simply call a handle submit function. On click of back, we will navigate, we will simply navigate the user to the home page. So we will simply navigate the user to the home page, and on submit we will simply submit the payment. So for submitting the payment, we just need to confirm the payment using the Stripe. So for this, we will simply call this handle submit, and here we will simply call a sync method, and here we have this event, and here we will simply prevent the event using the prevent default. So let's add the prevent default, sorry, prevent default. Okay, and then we have if we have an error, so we will have if we get an error on confirming the payment. So let's await for the payment. So let's await it. So await stripe dot confirm, confirm the stripe dot confirm payment. The stripe dot confirm payment, and here we will pass each and everything, the elements, then on successful confirmation of the payment, we will simply return the user. So simply return URL should be, so on successful confirmation of the payment, we will simply return the user to the, will simply return the user to the HTTPS, or here you will simply add your link. Here you can simply redirect the user. So here we will simply redirect the user to the success page. So let's check the route name of the success page here now. So here we have this checkout page, or here we have this payment success page. So for the payment success page, we will just create a route and path of this payment success, and here we have this element, and here inside of this element we will have payment success endpoint, payment success component, and we will simply call this component payment success. Now let's save this, go back to the checkout.js, and here we have this payment success, like this. So when on successful payment, we will simply call this payment success route. Got it? So on successful payment of the when successful payment done, we will simply call this payment success route here. So we are done with this, and if there is an error come, so we will simply, if there is an error come, so simply it will navigate the user to the home page. So if error, let's navigate to the home page, or else you can create an error page for the user also here. So now let's save this, and we have this product here, like this. Okay, so we are done with this. Now we can simply I think we don't need this product at this point of time, because we are not redirecting that particular product page here. So I have just removed this. Now let's save this, and now it's time to test our application. So now let's go back to our visual. Now let's go back to our page, and now here you can see here we have the bunch of things here. Now when you click on this, now click on the start now. When I click on the start now, it will send the request for the payment intents and successful payment intents. It should redirect the user to our home page. Sorry, it should redirect the user to the checkout page, right? So let's check if there is any error comes. So here is the error comes here. Okay, so here is the error coming. Let me just refresh it. Now let's do the start order. Now let's go to the network. Here it is failed. Let's check why it is failed here. There is nothing comes in here. I think there is an error in the backend part. So let's check the console for the backend also. So here, yeah, app application is crashed. Let's see. Okay, you did not provide an API key. Okay, so here we just need to provide the secret key correctly. So now I have provided the secret key correctly here. Now let's click on this. Now you can see here we have redirected to our payment integration page here, and now you can see here this is the client secret key or the payment intent ID that it will be required to do the payment here. Now let's do a sample payment like this. Now do the add the expiration, add the any CVC, and now when I click on this submit, on successful submission of the payment, we will be redirected to our payment successful page. Now it is authenticating the user, and on successful payment we will definitely be redirected to the payment page. So here we have this success payment page here, and nothing is showing here, but we are redirected to the payment success page here. Now let's check out the payment success page that we have here. So let's go back to our payment success page. So payment success page, we have only simple thing, that is this, but we just need to give the margin from the top, so that's why it's not showing here. So let's give the class name mt5. Now you will see here, okay, let me add a margin of, sorry, mt5 margin top of 5. Okay, there is nothing coming like here. We can simply add a margin of 100 pixel, style, margin top of 100 pixel. Now let's save this. Okay, it is not coming here. Let's just give it the text, class name text dark. Okay, it is not coming. I think we just, it is rendering, by the way it is rendering, so that's why it is coming to this payment success page on successful redirect, but the content is need to we need to show the content here. So let's copy the container, and the container that we are showing in here. So let's copy the container and simply add it here. So that's why, let me add this container, copy it, go back to our payment success page, and here we can simply add add this mdb container. Let's import it. Let's import mdb container from mdb react UI kit, and here we will simply close this mdb container like this. So here we have this link, so here we can simply add this inside of this. Let's import the link. Let's import the link from material UI. So let's import the link from React router DOM. Sorry. So import the link from React router DOM and MDB icon from the MDB React router. MDB React UI kit. So here is the MDB icon here. Now let's save this. Now let's check it. Of this payment page, as everything is coming. Okay, now coming. Now We can see here inside of this app.js, we have called it on, yeah, we have this payment success. Okay, we have this payment success page. Yeah, it is called like there. Okay, now let's add a row. MDB row and put this inside of this. Just add MDB. Oops, we have added a wrong URL here, so it should be success double S. And now you can see here it is coming, the payment done successfully, and we have this logo and everything that is there here. So we are done with this payment integration. Now the last thing that we just need to do is to add a payment integration directly from your cart here. So for this you just need to do a simple thing. On clicking on the card, we just need to redirect the user to the component for this. So first of all, let's add some items inside of our card. So we have added two items in my card, and here we should add up. When we click on the pay now button, we just need to redirect the user to the navigate to this, and we simply add the particular page to that component. So for this you just need to go inside of this product details page. So inside of this product details, we have this handle checkout. So let's copy the same checkout functionality here and just go back to our products in our cart, and here we will simply paste this, and here we will simply call each and everything. So let's import it. So let's import Axios from Axios, import use navigate. So here you just need to add const navigate equals to use navigate, like this. Okay, so we have these things here, and now we can simply check out the user with the client secret data that we are getting here. But we just need to check out the user, which is the item price. Instead of this item price, we will simply give the aggregate price here. So the aggregate price would be the final amount for that here, and this handle checkout will be called when we click on the pay now button. So it will be called when we click on the pay now button. So here inside of this pay now button, we will simply add on click functionality. So on click, we'll simply call this handle checkout, like this. Now let's save this, and this will be done from the card also, product card also here. Now when I click on this, let's click on this pay now, and now here you can see here it is redirected to our payment page. And now let's add the sample payment option here. Let's add the sample payment option here, and let's click on the submit. You will see we will be redirected to our success page here in a second, when there is a successfully authenticates the payment. And now you can see a payment done successfully. Now let's check the payment is done successfully or not. You can simply click on there, and now you can see here we have a successful payment of 1,59,000 here, and it is done succeeded here. So here we get the details in the card also, in the dashboard of the Stripe also. So we are done with the payment integration, and we have seen these things here, and now we have integrated our CMS inside of this application. So this is the final e-commerce application that we have built here. If you have any suggestions or any doubts in this particular build, don't hesitate to comment your queries or doubt. We will surely resolve your doubts, and you just simply receive a comment, actually reply of your comment here also. So Till then, have a nice and awesome day. Take care. Goodbye.